The average person would honestly rather give themselves a mild electric shock than sit alone in an empty room with nothing to do for 15 minutes. Think about that. It's not a metaphor. Researchers literally put people in a bare room, told them to just sit quietly with their thoughts, and gave them a button that would shock them if they pressed it. 2/3 of the men pressed it anyway. And one woman, she shocked herself 190 times in 15 minutes. Look, she actually said she preferred the pain to the quiet. Let that sink in for a second. Given a choice between physical pain and absolutely nothing, the human brain votes for pain every single time. No other animal on Earth does this. A dog can sleep in a patch of sunlight for 6 hours straight and wake up completely fine. A crow just sits on a wire, stares at nothing, and it's perfectly content. A whale drifts in the pitch dark for days. Not one of them is reaching for something to make the time pass, right? None of them are coming apart at the seams just because the world stopped giving them things to react to. We are the only creatures on this planet that need the world to keep moving. And the reason why? It's stranger than it sounds. Boredom doesn't really feel like much from the inside. It's a low hum, a restlessness without an address. You reach for your phone, flip through an app you've already checked 3 times, put it down, pick it up again. It feels totally trivial, like a minor inconvenience between the parts of life that actually matter. But if you follow that feeling far enough, it stops being trivial very quickly. Back in 1951, a radio DJ named Tripp stayed awake for 201 hours for a charity stunt, broadcasting live from a glass booth right in the middle of Times Square. By day 3, he was seeing spiders crawling out of his shoes. By day 5, he became convinced the people around him were wearing human faces like masks. A doctor walked into the booth, and Tripp literally screamed that the man's suit was made of furry worms. Now, he hadn't been physically hurt. He hadn't been starved or threatened or locked away. He'd just been left with an overstimulated mind and absolutely nothing real to grab onto. That's the extreme end of it, but you don't have to go nearly that far to see the damage. Solitary confinement is widely considered one of the most psychologically destructive things one human being can do to another. And it's not because of the physical conditions. The cell is small, sure, but survivable. The food keeps you alive. What actually breaks people is the total removal of input. Weeks on end in a room where nothing changes, nothing arrives, and there is nothing to push against. Prisoners report hearing voices within days. They see things. They lose the boundary between themselves and the walls. The United Nations has even called prolonged solitary confinement a form of torture, not because of what it adds to a person's life, but because of what it takes away. The real question is why? Why does nothingness destroy us when it barely registers for every other creature alive? Well, the answer starts somewhere you wouldn't expect. It starts with time. Every animal experiences time, obviously, but most of them experience it the way water experiences a riverbank. It just passes. There is now, and there is the immediate pull toward food or warmth or safety, and that's basically the whole picture. No animal sits on a branch wondering what it will be doing in 3 weeks. No animal finishes eating and questions whether the meal was worth it compared to last Tuesday's dinner. They are locked in the present moment in a way that looks a lot like peace from the outside. Your brain doesn't work that way. It evolved something entirely different, something that allowed early humans to plan a hunt weeks in advance, to remember exactly which berries caused illness 2 seasons ago, to imagine a tool that didn't even exist yet and then build it from scratch. That capacity, the literal ability to mentally leave the present moment and travel through time in your own head, is precisely what made humans the most dangerous species on Earth. But it came with a massive cost that nobody really talks about. See, a mind that can travel through time can also get stuck between destinations. It can find itself with nothing urgent happening right now, nothing compelling in the immediate future, and no crisis pulling it back to the present. And when that happens, the machinery doesn't just go quiet, it keeps running, it just has nowhere to go. That is boredom. It's not a lack of things to do, it's a mind powerful enough to need constant input, spinning its wheels in place because the input stopped. The philosopher Blaise Pascal wrote way back in 1654 that all of humanity's problems stem from one single thing: the inability to sit quietly in a room alone. He wasn't being poetic here. He meant it as a literal diagnosis. The wars, the obsessions, the endless noise we fill our lives with, all of it, he argued, was just a species running away from the exact same thing, themselves. The silence that lives inside the gap between one moment and the next. He wrote that 370 years ago, before smartphones, before television, before the printing press had even fully taken hold. He had no idea how right he was. What Pascal couldn't have known is that the restlessness he was describing is actually structural. It isn't a moral failing or some weakness of character. It's the shadow of the exact same cognitive machinery that let humans build cities, write symphonies, and land on the moon. You simply cannot have one without the other. The capacity for imagination is the capacity for boredom. They are wired to the same switch. But here's the part that changes the entire picture. Researchers who study boredom have found something totally unexpected buried inside it. Not just discomfort, not just a signal to go find something to do. Hidden in that restlessness is something that looks, under the right conditions, almost like fuel. Boredom is actually the only emotional state that reliably increases creativity. People who are forced to be bored before a creative task consistently outperform people who aren't, every time. The mind, when it's denied external input, naturally turns inward. It starts generating. It starts connecting things that wouldn't normally touch each other. It starts asking questions it never would have thought to ask when it was busy. Every writer who has ever stared at a blank wall until an idea finally arrived knows this feeling. Every mathematician who found the solution out of nowhere in the shower. Every single person who has had the thought that changed everything during a long, empty drive. The cave painters of Lascaux weren't bored exactly, but those long winters that trapped them inside for months, they probably helped. So here's what you actually are. You are a creature whose greatest strength is a mind that cannot rest. That exact same restlessness that makes you reach for your phone at 2 a.m., that fills every silence with background noise, that drove a woman in a laboratory to press a shock button 190 times rather than be alone with her thoughts. That exact same restlessness is what built every single thing you have ever used, read, heard, or lived inside. Boredom isn't a flaw in the system, it is the system running on idle. Every other animal can sit still and wait. You can't. And because you can't, you invented fire and language and mathematics and music, and the question of whether any of it even means anything at all. The quiet isn't empty. It never was. We just forgot how to listen to it.